Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, can you make a profit recycling? Well, pretty much anything. We're going to find out about that. But first, the state of, well, broadcast and news. To join us from the Broadcasters Association, Justin Sasso. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And Jerry Raehal, who's with the Press Association. You guys represent your two different industries. Is that the best way to put it?
That would be accurate, yeah.
And what the hell do you do?
It's a good question.
What is the burning issue? So this is an association of competitors of newspapers and an association of competitors of TV and radio stations. So basically, when these groups, like any trade association, they're trying to shoot each other all the time, but occasionally a threat comes by so big that they will all join forces.
It's not occasionally anymore.
Really?
I mean, with our current government, it's pretty frequent.
What do you mean?
Well, there are several bills that broadcast radio and television are battling. One of the biggest issues, as a matter of fact, I just came off a conference call, was regarding the satellite redistribution. If you've heard of retransmission consent, this is the fee that the cable providers, the satellite providers pay back to local television for the right to carry that local newscast, which local newscasters obviously pay for the reporters and the producers and all the newscast portion of it. And the platform which it's redistributed on, which is cable and satellite, that's all they do. They just redistribute someone else's paid for content.
Let's see if I understand this, because I've got cable, and so if I'm watching this program, but I'm watching it on cable, this is still being broadcast over antennas that I can pick up
free over the air.
Exactly. And then Comcast grabs this, or Channel 9 or anything else, and they also put it down the pipe into people's homes. They have to pay for it, right?
They pay for that.
And let me tell you, they pay a lot for this show. So how does that work?
Essentially, a retransmission consent fee is what it comes down to. So what they do is Comcast, for example, and KUSA or Gannett Broadcasting will negotiate those fees. What should be paid by Comcast to rebroadcast the product that KUSA puts all the money forward, puts all the money into to produce. Because Comcast is nothing more than a redistributor of other people's content. Same goes for Direct, same goes for Dish. And back in '92, the retransmission consent laws were put in place because prior to that, cable liked to just redistribute somebody else's product at their own cost. And it essentially became a legislative act that was required to get the cable companies, the satellite companies, to pay for someone else's product, which they were redistributing and then collecting all the subscriber fees.
You should be happy. Somebody else is watching this show. You don't need money for it.
Well, all the folks in this room right here are being paid for by this TV station.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what's going on.
Comcast wants to redistribute that.
We're all getting paid
Tons
here
of money.
in this studio.
Tons
Absolutely.
Of money. We've seen the public record on
Let's bring it over to the newspapers now. Newspapers also have been going through machinations over the last decade or so. We can lament all the changes. What's the biggest issue that these bit of competitors who are all trying to carve out each other's niches and go after each other? I mean, the Denver Post would love to have more people up in Boulder and Colorado Springs read their paper, but they're competing with others. But they come together around your round table.
Well, I think it's important to note, though, that's not entirely true, in my opinion. We've actually seen over the past decade, while there's still some competition, there's more collaboration, where there's more news sharing going on, where because newsrooms are shrinking, that there is some collaboration going on about how to pick up news from these other outlying communities, and working with that. There is certainly competition going on, but we're kind of in a mode of we stand together, or we're divided, we fall, to a certain degree, and that's where the Press Association can kind of help with some of that collaboration.
All right, talking about the kind of the national stuff that goes on, let's talk more locally. That both you guys work for reporters, work for other organizations that try to get news and a fair amount of entertainment out. But locally, the state legislature also gets involved with what you do. Give me an example of this, and I want to use this to get into the topic of freedom of information.
Sure.
That Google can give me anything that was written over 100 years ago free, but trying to get information from my own government is always a trouble.
Yeah.
Unless you know Eric Snowden, then you get it like that.
Immediately. I think going back to what you said, we represent all these guys that are kind of competing and battling for the biggest audience and the advertising dollar. But when it comes to something like CORA, your open records laws, they're all trying to get at the same information. So it makes sense to gather together and fight as one team to as you say, unite and battle together for that. We've actually united with the Press Association on that front to go after some of Colorado's originally unregulated core laws.
And I think there's a, I mean, I'll interrupt, but I mean, the issue in Colorado Springs with the sheriff is a great example of government withholding records and pressure coming from multiple media sources as well as other government agencies to release some of those that information. It's been a...
Let's start kind of large on this first. CORO stands for the Colorado Open Records Act. Yep. There's a national law called FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act. The idea is that when government does business, it's our business, and we should be able to ask for something and see it. You've both worked in other places and seen other things. How are Colorado's open records laws, generally speaking? And that not just reporters, but average citizens, if they want to see the correspondence between bureaucrats, if they want to see the checkbook register of their county, they have the right to see that stuff, but it's sometimes hard to get.
That's a great question, and the thing that's interesting to me is in many respects, Colorado's laws are pretty strong, but when it comes to CORA itself, it's not as strong. I know we were talking earlier about it's a victory that what happened in the legislature this last year, but it's also not as good as some other states.
Give me a good state, and that has these open records laws, so you can see what's going on.
Well, I would say, I just came from Wyoming, and Wyoming, by and large, I would say does not have good open records law. But when it comes to inspection, you walk in the door. I want to inspect this record. You've paid taxpayer money for it. They're the custodians of it. They have to show it to you. Now, if you print it...
Give me an example of one of those records, just so we have
a budget, a city budget.
I want to see the city budget, or I want to see the check register to see all the checks that you printed in March.
Yeah, if you want to see anything you want to see, one of the lawsuits I was involved in Wyoming was over a hiring process. We want to see the hiring documentation. There, if it's legal, they will turn it over to you. And with no charge. You can look at it and inspect it at no charge. If you want it printed, then there is a cost associated with it. Where here, I think the law stands at the first hour is free and then a maximum of $30 per hour afterwards. And my stance on that is it's still your document. They're the custodians of your document.
Why do reporters need this stuff? I mean, tell me why your association cares about this. You got to run around with cameras and you should be able to, you don't need this.
Well, what people say and when they talk and what they write down and the trail that they leave is normally can be quite different. That is the smoking gun, more often than not. I mean, looking at what happened in New Jersey with the gate issue, the highway issue, right. That was all through getting information off of emails and documentation that otherwise, without reporters' hard work to get it,
or even here in Colorado when the governor said, I did not have conversations with Michael Bloomberg, but an open records request and his phone records showed, wait, you had several conversations with this man.
A great example, too, is it's changed the delivery system. Prior to this legislation being handed down, these different government offices could claim that they couldn't hand these records off to an individual who hadn't originally requested them, or they couldn't fax them, they couldn't email them. A great example is the Dallas superintendent was formerly the Pueblo County, I think, superintendent here in Pueblo, Colorado. The Dallas Morning Star, I think it is, wanted to do a story about this incoming superintendent, requested the records from the Pueblo School District. Pueblo School District produced the records and then called him and said, you need to come pick them up. When he asked if a courier could pick them up, no, it has to be the person that requested it. When he asked if it could be mailed, faxed, none of that. You have to come in person and pick it. So they had to literally drive somebody from Dallas.
We have had at Independence Institute the exact same problem in Pueblo, which was, here are your documents.
Right
here. Can you mail them? No.
No,
Can
they're
we
right
send them
here.
down? No.
Exactly.
You come down. Yes.
Exactly. So I think these laws...
Tell me what happened in the legislature this year that I think was a step in the right direction.
That was House Bill 141193.
What did it do?
That essentially standardized the fees. So I believe, as you said, it was no more than $32 or $30 per hour that could be charged. First hour is free for those records. It did legalize or make it acceptable that those records could be faxed, emailed through an electric ability to pass it on to whatever requesting agency. I don't know if they still require it be the individual who requested it, or at least that agency is still represented in the original request.
What's been frustrating for us as researchers, your reporters might need this for a story. We use this for research, trying to find out what government's been doing, what the trends are, all this other good stuff.
Sure.
Every government is a little different. We did a Cora request on higher ed, and when it was CU Boulder and School of Mines, they wouldn't give us anything. Colorado Mesa University sent us the stuff on digital, didn't charge us a penny, and then called us later, said, anything else you need?
Yeah.
I mean, so one cost a fortune, one cost nothing, and sadly, people in Colorado don't understand their rights as citizens to look at this. And I'm looking at something that Todd Shepard and Complete Colorado is looking at, which is these emails from Joe Donnellan that just disappeared. This was the Udall emails that came in and said lower the numbers of the people who got their insurance canceled, and well, we don't have them now.
No.
How does it? It's a system backed by Google. Google can't forget the silly email I sent 15 years ago. How in the world do these documents disappear? And I get a sense that government is an anachronism.
But you hit on the
to
heart
everything else.
of why our associations have to do what we're doing and pushing for this new legislation. And we'd be remiss in not recognizing the Freedom of Information Coalition and Jeff Roberts for working very hard on this Cora passage.
Which is also a joint effort of both of our associations.
Trying to get this bill passed so that
Well, the Colorado Freedom of Information Coalition, which any citizen, you talked about this information, they can contact Jeff Roberts at that location, and he will help them free of charge. And both of our associations help fund his work.
But you hit on a key point. You said that most citizens don't know this information is accessible. So it does take, his newspapers and our radio and TV broadcasters to do the digging and find, as you do at II, those little nuggets that maybe have been missed or somebody's not doing something as honestly as they should to present that to the public.
let me play devil's advocate. I do it well. The bureaucrats would say, listen, we got jobs to do, all right? It's not that we're hiding anything, but we got a lot of stuff to do. And if we're a small city, we're a small town, sending Betty to the back room to go through file after file after file means she can't serve her taxpayers. She's got other work she needs to get done, that this could be a nuisance. And if somebody wanted to really harass a small government, you just file more and more information requests.
I think I fundamentally disagree with that premise, though, in that, again, we pay taxpayer money for them already. And in my opinion, they are the custodians of those documents, and it is their job to be able to provide them in an accurate manner. In today's area of technology, I mean, they could do things that make it even more accessible. There's a place in Newcastle, Wyoming, where you can go, they set up on their website where you can get all the board members' emails back and forth to each other. You can just log in and do it. I mean, there are so many things that government could do to make it more accessible if they wanted to.
Incredible. Hey, gentlemen, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Tune into this show. You don't need to watch those other stations.
Would never think of it.
There
Thanks.
you go.
Yep.
Stay tuned. You're going to love this.